Howdy. So, I know it's been a while since I uploaded this NBA, like, kind of just short talk video. That's just because the regular season was getting pretty boring to me. There wasn't much to talk about. And I'll certainly be talking more about that, or more uh, in the playoffs and in the play in and all that kind of stuff, because there's going to be stuff to talk about. So for this video, I am going to be doing just kind of a little retrospective on the Nugget season because that's my team, obviously, and just kind of my thoughts on the regular season as a whole for them, and maybe get into a little bit to the Blazers matchup, but I'm going to save that for later video most likely. So the season started off very rough. They started off 1-4 and were not looking good for the first good portion of the season. They started 17-15 from what I remember, and then things started to click, and they won 75% of their games after that, and that's remarkable. And this is in most part due to Nikola Jokic elevating his game to an MVP caliber this season. He would be my pick for MVP, and it seems like that's the consensus, which good. It should be unanimous in my opinion. But it also has a lot to do with Jamal Murray's ascension before he got hurt. He was doing great things in February and March. He was averaging like 23 a game, 24 a game during that stretch. And there was about a 15-game stretch where he was averaging 25 on insane splits. He was just fantastic for a good portion of the season. And then as soon as he went down, Michael Porter Jr. just stepped right into those shoes and filled that role flawlessly, averaging 25 over that stretch on just insane shooting. I'm pretty sure it was like 70% true shooting. He just finished the season with the second ever highest effective field goal percentage behind only Wilt Chamberlain for a player who averaged more than 19 points per game. He is already a historic scorer, and that is insane because he is in his second season of actually playing, and he is going to be a top 15 player one day probably. This team is very scary for the future, but let's focus on the present for now. So throughout the season, they dealt with a lot of injuries. Murray was banged up for a good portion of the season, even when he was healthy before the ACL. They had MPJ miss, I think, 13 or 14 games due to health and safety protocols. They had Will Barton in and out throughout the year. In this last stretch, they had Monte Morris, PJ Dozier, Will Barton, and Jamal Murray out, so that is their starting and backup front court typically. So they've had to be playing Austin Rivers, Shaq Harrison, and Facu, which back when the signing happened, a lot of people were skeptical of the Facu signing, but thank God that he was actually there because he was the only healthy point guard. He was the only healthy, good ball handler, and he did really well over the last 10, 15 games of the season. He was a ball hawk. He was making a decent amount of his threes. He became more comfortable, and he plays really well next to Jokic. Aaron Gordon, that trade really helped the Nuggets out. I know RJ Hampton has been balling out in Orlando. I'm happy for him. And Gary Harris was great for the Nuggets at times, but I think that trade is one I would still do because Aaron Gordon fits this team so well. He's a bigger defensive wing. He's not really relied on for his scoring. I would like it if he scored more without Jamal Murray there, but he's a great cutter. He's been really good defensively, and I think he'll step up defensively in the playoffs. And, I mean, I am still high on that trade, but the bench was very lacking this season compared to what it had been in years past. Monte Morris was in and out with a lot of just little injuries, quad, hamstring, that kind of stuff. Stuff that you need to take a while to get back or else it'll keep nagging at you. And that really hurt the bench, but also JaMychal Green fell off about halfway through the season. He was doing really, really good for a good portion of December and January, but then after February he had a stretch where he was shooting I think 25% from three or something like that, and there were just multiple stretches throughout the season where Jermichael Green was not the answer. Paul Millsap took a step back this season. He's still good, and I think he can still give you good minutes, but he is not the Paul Millsap that we've known from years past. He is a bench player, like significantly so. He is just a role player at this point. He's not a starter quality player. He's a good bench player. And that is, something that is a little shaky. And the Paul Millsap Jermichael Green duo was really shaky for a lot of the season. A lot of the season, that duo was not great. They've come around in the past few weeks, but for a good portion of the season, that duo was not really a good option for the Nuggets to go to. But that was the option that Malone went with a lot, which I'm not sure how much I agree with that, but he is a head coach of an NBA team, and I am a teenager living in his parents' basement. So, yeah. And then you have, JaVale McGee, who he got stretches of run, but he did not play a ton. And I would have liked to see him play more, but he was good in the minutes he played. Austin Rivers and Shaq Harrison, for how short of a time they've been with the team, have played fantastic. But, yeah, overall, I think the season exceeds expectations considering all the factors that went into the season. They beat their over. Jokic is the MVP favorite and is 99% going to win it. I hope it does not go to Steph because that would be absurd. MPJ is up there for most improved player. Murray was looking great before he got hurt, but with all the injuries and the health and safety protocols throughout the season, all I can really say is that Nikola Jokic very much deserves the MVP. This season was a success in my book as far as the regular season goes. We'll see about the playoffs. And, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts. If you want to see more playoff content in going into the postseason and off-season content when that comes around, and podcasts, because I have 2 podcasts coming up this week, one with Noah Terranova and another with Mojo 99. I'm not exactly sure when those are going to be out, but I am recording them this week, and they will probably be out either this weekend or next week, and I have another big guest coming on next week. So, yeah, if you want to see all that, like and subscribe. Thanks. I'm out.